Adelaide are off to Darwin to take on Melbourne this weekend, Saturday night. Premiership player from Port Adelaide and an all-round good guy. Now GM of football at the Melbourne Football Club, Josh Mahoney, has been good enough to speak to us this morning. Mahoney, thanks for your time.
Good morning, Kane. How are you?
It's been a challenge for you, but how difficult's it been this year?
Yeah, it's been difficult for us. Hasn't been the start that we wanted, and there's been reasons for that with player availability and just all around just our form not being good enough and losing games. But yeah, it's been a struggle. But every team, as they're trying to get to where we want to get to, have times like this, and it's really important that we stick together and keep trying to improve every week. And another good challenge against the Crows this week.
You've been pretty bold as a football club. Last year was extraordinary, some of the football that you played, and many of us thought you'd go the next step, and the trades that you've made, some have worked, some perhaps haven't, Marnes, but you're all in as a footy club and you have had a crack to try and get where you need to go. Perhaps this year you've just fallen short a little bit for those reasons you've explained.
Yeah, well, we haven't won a premiership for a long period of time, Melbourne Footy Club, and we put together a plan 5 years ago about how we wanted to get to where we wanted to get to, and that was about building a list of young players together, and then adding to that with some traded players. And we targeted some players at the end of last year that we thought would help us, and we haven't had really look at College Asney and Braden Bruce has played a couple of games, but hasn't gone to plan just yet. But we think it's not about throwing everything out. There's some adjustments we need to make, and we still think we're going to be a good team for a long period of time.
And just an update on just for the Crows fans and Jake Lever, not going to play this week, I think, as he said, with that ankle. But how's he progressing? Because once again, unfortunately, he's just had so many injuries that he hasn't been able to get over, particularly that knee.
His knee's progressing really well. He played one game for Casey Demons, then he played the first half, and he said himself, I spoke to him during the week, how he felt he was ready to play AFL footy, and then rolled an ankle 5 minutes later. And that's the only reason he's not playing this week is a rolled ankle. And as you know, from guys that have long-term injuries and they're coming back, you want their first game for them to be 100% fit or as close as they can to be that. And we just took that approach this week to get it right and hopefully be right for next week.
Melbourne GM Josh Mahoney joining us this morning on 1629 SEN SA. Mahoney, you probably would have seen the somewhat feud between Jordan Lewis and Kane Corns develop a couple of weeks ago. Jordan Lewis not available this weekend, done for striking in the VFL. How is his comeback going?
His comeback was going well. He played a really good game at VFL. He did everything you expect him to do as a leader of the club and get around the young guys. And one incident that has cost him a week, so that's disappointing. And he's got to train really hard this week and make sure that he gives himself every chance to come back in the remainder of the year.
Well, you have to make some calls on guys like Jordan Marnes if the form does continue. You can't afford to have too many losses before finals will be off the agenda. There's a bit of talk around the club going young. Mark Robinson spoke about it on AFL 360 last night. Is that something that's crossed your mind, and will you have to make some calls on veterans like Lewis?
Well, we can't go much younger, Kane, because last week our average games was 65.
Right.
So, we've played 35 players this year, and that's not by design. It's because of availability. I mean, we'll give opportunities to guys, but in the end, our mentality is to keep playing our best team. Overall, as a list, we're a young team, but there's opportunities for guys that present themselves. And Oscar Baker's come in the last 2 weeks, and 4 weeks ago he was probably struggling at VFL level, but he's coming good and with a great attitude. And we now see him as an AFL player. Harrison Petty gets an opportunity, but we've still got some very mature guys to come in the team as well. Stephen May and College Asney both playing VFL this week, so they'll come into calculations for the remainder of the year. We still think there's so many guys to come back into the side, so it won't be a deliberate ploy by us at all. It's about putting our best team out there and starting to get back and playing the way we want to play.
What about the sports science department? I guess you as footy operations and Simon Goodwin, we analyse all of that. Do you have to have a look at maybe what's gone wrong in that area? Because you spoke about all the surgeries. Now, some of those not any fault of the Melbourne Footy Club. They're contact collision injuries. But will you look at that in the off-season, or do you have ongoing reviews in that department?
Yeah, we've had ongoing in all areas, like every good club does every year. It's not just you get to one point and get a result and then look at it. We look at it every year, and at the start of the year and the middle way through the year, and our analysis of pre-season as we felt we did adapted to what we needed to do. It was obviously a shorter pre-season where we finished. It was the first time the players had 3 weeks off over Christmas. We had 15 operations, so we had to adjust our loads. Combination of that, and then we lost 7 or 8 players through to a lot of them were collision injuries during the February, March sort of time. So it's really hit by a perfect storm. But you do look at your program, you look to adjust things. Did we miss some opportunities? Can we add some different things in? So those conversations are continuing all the time.
And how's Goody holding up? I mean, who helps him through this time? He's a relatively young and inexperienced coach.
He is, yeah. We've got some really experienced people around the club that Brendan McCartney, Todd Viney, David Misson is our high performance manager. We're all, and myself, we all play a role in helping Simon go through and guide him through. That's just within the club. And then externally, he's got great mentors as well that he utilises at different stages. And it is a period of where Simon's being challenged as a coach. And when he speaks about this, he says this is a great opportunity for him to learn, because regardless of what you're going through, at some stage, a coach is going to go through a period like we are now. It's not always going to be smooth sailing. So, he's growing and developing all the time.
And Josh, how's your coach going physically? We saw last week he had a couple little dizzy spells during a press conference. How's he tracking this week? And did we get to the bottom of actually what happened?
Yeah, I think he's trying to beat Kane in a marathon race at the moment because he's trying to look after himself and be fit. And I've told him to try and take my tactic and maybe just ease back a little bit on that. But no, he's incredibly fit, and it was just a situation where he trained really hard that morning. He hadn't eaten in the morning and just had a few dizzy spells. So good little reminder for him that he's got a busy life. He's a senior coach for a footy club, and he's got to look after himself, because in the end, they're the energy of the club, and we need him up and going. And he's since then he's been fine.
Good, because it was a little bit scary for a minute there, but all is good. So that was terrific. Hey, big couple of weeks for the footy club. Firstly, taking on Adelaide in Darwin. What do you gain by playing up there as a home game, and has that worked for you, and what are you expecting from the Crows?
Oh, first of all, it's good to get out of the 12 degrees that it is in Melbourne today, and to get up to the 32 degrees in Darwin. But we've played up there for a number of years now, and Alice Springs probably for the last 3 or 4 years. And what it is good is it's good for the guys to get away and to play in a different community up in Darwin. And every time we go up there, there's extra players go up and injured players, and it's a great experience. First of all, off the field, we're getting involved in a number of projects in Alice Springs. We've got an academy in that region. So those are all the experiences that you get as an AFL player that is outside playing the game. And then playing the game as well. It is a different type of game in Darwin. The humidity does come in, and it does get dewy, particularly in the second half. But we know how to handle those conditions. And the good thing is now we get to play some really good opponents. We've played West Coast up there before, Fremantle when they were strong, and now the Crows. And I know the Crows have got a good footprint in Northern Territory, and I think it's going to be a capacity crowd, so good experience.
So that's this week, and then next week, big freeze at the G, which is just taking on a life of its own. So congratulations to Neil and yourself as a footy club for embracing that. But this gets bigger and bigger every year. What will it be like, and what can we expect next week?
It does get bigger and bigger, and when they roll off the amount of money that it's been raised through this cause and the impact that it's had, it again just shows how amazing our industry is, and when we all get together for a cause, the impact that it can have. But it's a huge game against Collingwood that are going really well at the moment. It's always been one of those games that, regardless of where teams are on the ledder, ends up being a close game, and our guys really get themselves up for it. We hopefully there's a few more guys available next week to play in that game, but Saturday night against the Crows and then rolling into Collingwood, 2 crucial games for us, and can really help us rebound our season and to set us up for the back half of the year.
And before we let you go, footy clubs are an unbelievable place when tragedy strikes and things don't go well. Couldn't believe the story about Brad Green and the passing of his wife, Anna, and you as a footy club have come together to support and honour her and her memory this weekend.
Yeah, tragedy's the correct word. No one expects what happened to Anna to happen to their own partner or their wife, and as tragic as it is, been really proud of how the club's responded and how his past players have got around him, his ex-teammates have got around him. There's stories of guys flying from WA to be around him and taking time off work to be around Brad, and that's what footy clubs are great at. And the small little thing that we can do is to wear a black armband in memory of Anna is just one thing the club can do, but we're hopefully going to do a lot more for Brad and help him get through this.
Josh, we really appreciate your time this morning. Good luck in NT, and hopefully we can chat to you again throughout the season.
Thanks, guys.
Josh Mahoney is a Port Adelaide Premiership player, will be for life now. Has made his way through the coaching ranks and into football administration, and very, very good at what he does. Unfortunately for Melbourne, they're sitting 16th on the ladder this year, 3-7, taking on Adelaide, who are in 7th spot, split at 5-5. So massive game for both clubs. You'd think Melbourne's last roll of the dice, and Adelaide must win to stay in touch with the 8 and to stay in touch with